and welcome to Categories TV. My name is Jason J. Rock Houston. Our guest today is George Pond, the bassist from the band Swim the Current. Now, George, how long has the band been together?
I mean, the band kind of started like about a year ago or so. I mean, I want to say it was a little longer than that. So,
Okay.
I mean, a little back history on the band. Like we kind of started out. We were not like really a band. We were like doing some stuff over the internet with one another. Just some guys that really wanted to create some really cool music. So and we had different singers, right?
Yeah.
At first, and then I reached out to Marcos about doing a feature, just doing one song or whatever. And long story short, things just fell together, everything clicked, you know
So
what I
that's
mean?
the band. Now,
And
let me ask you. Once you recorded the first song with him, did you feel that chemistry right away? Did you okay, we got something here?
100%. I mean, everybody involved was like, wow, this is it. This is, we actually have to make this a band now. We actually have to continue forward and start, pursuing, doing a record, together. And yeah, it was just immediate chemistry.
The latest single, of
100%.
course, is for you guys just put out a video for the song "Solo." Pretty cool video. I dig this. I dig this song. I got to tell people. I just recently kind of discovered the band accidentally, like a lot of people on Facebook, and I was kind of digging what I was hearing. Now, the song "Solo," what is it about specifically? You want to share that with us?
Sure. Well, the song is actually a cover song from Co Wetzel, who's a country guy.
Wow.
I'm and the strange part about actually how this came together was that Marcos, he's from Texas. He's a country guy as well as a metalhead.
Okay.
He likes to listen to country to get pumped up or whatever before El Nino shows. And he approached me. He said, "Man, I really would want to would like to do a country cover." And I was like, "Oh, okay, bro, that's like a little out of
Really?
my
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
wheelhouse."
yeah, yeah.
So I was thrown back by it, but I was intrigued at the same point at the same time.
Now let me
So
ask you: have you heard have you had a chance to hear the original version of the song? I was curious how drastically different is it? Because being a country song, I'd imagine it sounds quite a bit different than what you guys did with the song.
absolutely. I mean, yeah, I became a country fan for probably 2 weeks because I'm the one who kind of put it together, right?
Yeah.
To become the song it is now, as far as the Swim the Current version, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I became a country fan for about 2 weeks or whatever because he threw a whole bunch of stuff at me. He was like, okay, maybe some George Strait or
Sure.
he threw a couple other artists out there, but the Co Wetzel one is the one that actually resonated with me. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
he gave me like 5 or 6 songs to listen to from Co Wetzel as well. And this one really resonated. I felt like I could do so much with this song. And
Yeah.
everybody in the band really came forward with things to
Yeah.
contribute to it that made it to be the cover that we made it. We wanted to make it a little bit true to the fact,
Yeah.
but heavier, and it is very much different.
You know,
It's country.
yeah. The
So
cool thing about that is, George, myself, I'm a hard rock metal guy myself, but I have appreciation for everything from, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Tom Petty, the Eagles, because let's be honest, everything. I mean, most of us when we listen to a song, we're listening for the hook. You know, and if it's a good song, it's a good song. I mean,
100%.
and again,
Yeah.
if you want to talk about metal and stuff, probably about as metal the Beatles ever got was like Helter Skelter. I mean, most people listening to this, they might think that's a Motley Crue song. No, actually, it's a Beatles song.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I think that we were a little bit more metal when we came out with the first song, and this kind of breathed some new light. I mean, don't be surprised when you
No,
hear the new record that you're going to hear a very country tinge to what we do now,
because
and
yeah,
it all derived from this cover right here.
because again, I'm myself honestly just kind of discovering the band. I've only heard the two songs I've heard so far are Solo and let's see, what's Congenitive Dissonance.
Oh, cognitive dissonance.
Oh, there you
So
go. Okay.
cognitive dissonance was the other track that we did with that's actually Shaka Malik from Orange 9mm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so um there's another track out there that we did with Marcos you could hear. It's called We Are Not the Same.
Okay, I'll have to check
So
that
that
out.
was the first track that we did with Marcos.
Uh-huh. And I like
Yeah.
the other track we were just talking about. Not that there's any need to, but because it's a good song, it stands out on its own. But now that this is a lineup, do you think you might re-record that with the current lineup?
No, definitely not. I mean, Shaka did his thing,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know that
yeah.
was a feature, and you know we leave it up there. It's not like we want to take it down. We're not
I hear
embarrassed
you.
by
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah,
anything that. I
yeah.
mean, Shaka did his thing, and it sounds great. So it's a cool track.
And you
We
know the
did
great
that back
thing,
in the COVID thing, you know,
yeah.
during
And
2020.
wow, and you know the great thing about doing covers is there's typically two kind of schools of thoughts where if you do cover, a lot of people have the thought that let's just do a carbon copy of a original. But then, kind of like what you did, I think is kind of smart because not only are you covering somebody else's material, but you don't pick the obvious cover. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
you kind of make it your own and kind of own it. I mean, it's kind of like when Tesla covered the song "Signs." I mean, that goes all the way back to this other band, the electrical band from the 1970s. But that's like they kind of rocked it up and they made it their own, and they had a bigger hit with it than even the original artist.
yeah. I mean, you know, this has been taking off. You know, it's been climbing up the radio charts, and we're we can't believe
Yeah,
the response that's
yeah.
happened from it. You know what I mean? And
And the cool
I
thing
mean,
about
I'm
it
I'm
is I will go
go ahead.
check out like when I get done talking to you, I'll go look up the original version of a song just to kind of hear the difference. And
Yeah,
I think a lot of people will do that. And when they find out it's a cover song, and that's the cool thing about doing a cover of it. Swim the Current has a version of this song, but people are going to think maybe this is the original song at first until they hear it's a cover, and then they'll check out the original version. And you guys are actually turning them on to country music. That's pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a little cross pollination there.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, people have done stuff like that, and where a great example of that is like Foghat. They're still out putting out original music and touring, and their latest album, if you can believe it or not, not only did it hit the Billboard chart, but it's actually because it's like got some blues music on it. It's actually hit the Billboard Blues chart as well.
nice.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah, I
pretty cool
mean,
when you can have that kind of
there.
success.
I think you could see like there is some trends going on with that. The country hard rock
Yeah,
type of cross pollination that's happening. I mean, we had Jelly Roll. He was number one on a country chart and on the active rock chart at the same time, like in the
yeah,
same week.
yeah.
So I mean, and that's the first artist to ever do that. So
Yeah, well,
um,
like I'm from Los Angeles. It used to be the kind of next to New York, the musical capital of the world. It's not what it once was, but people today are either moving to Las Vegas or Nashville. A lot of the 80s rock guys are actually living in Nashville now and writing music for other people. A lot of those
yeah, yeah.
country artists. So
Uh,
that's kind of that's where we are. And I love to ask you, George, too, because I know one of the hardest things is to come up with a band name. Swim the Current, I kind of heard that and I thought, it sounds pretty original. It's unique. How did you guys come up with that one?
To be honest with you, that had nothing to do with me. So
Okay.
again, when this band started, I was just asked to produce
Oh, okay.
the record and or some songs for Greg. Greg had like kind of a solo thing, and I worked with Greg and Joe in another band that I have called Disciples of Verity with Corey
Oh,
Glover. So he
did
asked
you
me to
say with Corey
produce.
Glover from
Yes,
Living Color? Wow.
yes, yeah, yeah. We have a record out right now and another record coming out this year. So um, that's
Anytime you
another
want to come
thing.
back and talk about that, we can do that. But today we're talking about
Definitely, yeah,
Swim the Current.
exactly.
But let me ask you, so did this start out like most internet bands where everybody like lived in a different part of the country, or are you relatively close to one another?
No, you're probably pretty correct. So Greg is close to me.
Uh,
Uh, Joe lives in upstate New York. and Chris lives in upstate New York. Chris lives by Niagara Falls. He's
Oh wow.
6 hours away from me. Joe's probably 3 hours away, and Marcos lives in Texas. So yes, it is one of those bands that, even to shoot this video, funny thing is, the first time we've ever been in a room together was to shoot this video.
I was going to ask that because believe it or not, um, I've interviewed bands like this where like one three of the guys like live in the United States, and one guy lives like in Austria or something, and they met
Yeah,
like for the first time when the band had a gig at the Whiskey or something in Los Angeles for the first
yeah,
time, and
that's
it's the way people make records. I mean, it's amazing. You don't even have to be in the same. So what is that process like? I mean, I imagine you do it the modern way and people send files back and forth, but to do it that way and then you produce a song, edit everything together to hear the final product, that's got to be an amazing process.
so I'd say that this is probably, shockingly a easy process. Okay.
Yeah,
Because the meat and potatoes myself and Greg create, at my home studio. Joe's got a home studio. Chris has a home studio. Marcos doesn't have a home studio, but we kind of work on that together. Like, I flew down to Texas 2 weeks ago. We did a couple tracks in Texas. I'm actually flying out tomorrow to Fort Wayne, Indiana, to go work with Sahaj Tikkanen and from the band Ra.
oh
And
wow.
he's produced, like, he's produced some Motley Crue and Bad Wolves and Nothing More, and some Seven Dust stuff. He's done,
Wow,
a whole bunch
it's
of
all
stuff.
over
So
there. Yeah,
so we do the vocals, together, kind of, Marcos and I, and whoever, is working on it. Like Chris Anger in Florida was working on it. And so it's been a process of, like, the music, the meat and potatoes is created here. I send the tracks over to Joe. Joe puts, his solos, keyboards, backing guitars, at his place, and adds some color and ambience to the
yeah,
to
yeah.
the track, and then we do the vocals, and then the last person to get it is Chris Moore, who just, I mean, what's to say? It's like, there's not even a
I mean, it's
conversation.
amazing. I
It's
mean, because I guess I'm an old school guy in the sense that when I back in the day when I was growing up, bands used to you'd have to be in the same room, the same recording studio, do it all, and it's amazing how fresh this stuff sounds. You never necessarily know that you guys weren't in the same room, but it just sounds like such an old school record, you know?
it's not even, I think this is very of old school mindset when
Yeah,
we're going into it. It's just that everybody in this band has just done such a great job of, there's nothing to say, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
send it to Joe, he sends it back to me. I don't have anything to say because what he did was great,
yeah, yeah.
and then,
I,
so the same thing with Chris. It's like,
the
you send it to
musicianship,
him.
yeah, I get the level of musicianship, and I can speak on behalf of Chris Moore because I've interviewed him a few times in the past, and he's just no matter what the project is, he's involved. Super talented drummer. I tell you, when the very first time I interviewed Chris was I went to see him play, if you can believe it or not, and he's part of a Smashing Pumpkins tribute band.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Chris, oh, so you're in LA, I guess?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
know he's moved since then, but yeah, I mean, he
Yes.
can do all kinds of different types of music. And I know the last thing he did was this band Vante, and they charted and were all over the place.
Yeah. He's a super talented drummer. And like I said, for us, the process is just so easy. There's not really a lot of discussion. Like, we crack jokes more than we discuss, people's parts and what they did in the
Yeah,
music, because I think everybody is just so dialed in to this, and it clicks. So it's just mindlessly easy. I
yeah.
can't explain it,
I
because
mean, uh, the
I've done
solo
the
video
old
just
school thing. Go ahead.
premiered, a couple of days ago, and I
Yeah.
it's amazing how many views that's gone already. And you don't even have an album
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
No, it's that's already got 12,000 views. We already have 20,000 streams on Spotify, and God knows what else on iTunes and Pandora and all that. And
Eh,
I would say it's got already probably 100,000 spins,
Yeah, and it's amazing. I mean,
you
because when
know.
you consider back in the day, if you were a metal band, especially, everybody was trying to get their video on MTV or Headbangers Ball or whatever the case. But now MTV and that's gone away. You don't even need it. There's some bands that don't even make videos, but then there are bands like Swim the Current that I mean, you look at the video for Solo. I urge people to go on YouTube, check that out, because I mean, it looks like a very professionally shot. It looks like something you would have seen on MTV back in the day, and so that tells me, not only the quality of the song, but that you guys take a lot of pride in the product you put out.
Absolutely. That was shot by Tom Flynn in Long Island. So, Marcus flew out here from Texas and Chris drove down and Joe drove down and we all met in Long Island and we stayed overnight and we shot it with Tom. Tom is an amazing, videographer and he does some amazing work. He's worked with some of the biggest artists of today as
I'm
well.
not surprised to hear
So
that. I mean, because the quality of that video, just I mean, it's there.
it is. He's great. Kudos to Tom.
Kudos to
So
the band too, but yeah, everybody does their part.
absolutely. But Tom does an amazing job. He's one of the top notch best. And that's what's cool too is like we try to work with some of the best veterans out there, the ones that appeal to us as artists, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And we appreciate their art. So, that's very much art and we appreciate Tom's art. So
Yeah. And Swim the Current now, I don't know if it's fair to call you guys a metal band. You definitely got metal elements, but I'd say maybe you got a modern rock sound or even alternative. How would you describe the overall sound of the band?
I mean, we kind of could consider it like a cross pollination between country and metal. So
Yeah,
we call it like you know garage metal
there you
or
go. There you go.
gas station metal or something like that or
Not that's really important to put a label on, but I asked. I'll tell you why, George, because typically when you're hearing a band for the first time, or you're discovering a band, um, you try to think, who does this band sound like, or who do they remind me of? And granted, I've only heard two songs, but I think those two songs are kind of a fair representation of what you guys do. But they have similar kind of sound to it, and I can honestly say, like, I can't sit here and tell people, oh, Swim the Currents, sounds like they're the next Metallica. No, not at all. You guys kind of, and again, I'm just basing this on the two songs I've heard, to be honest. But it sounds like something fresh and original. It doesn't sound like you're trying to be the next whatever. You're just trying to go in and create and do what you guys do.
yeah, I don't think that everything's natural. You know what I mean? It's just a natural progression of things that have happened in this band. Like I could tell you this, like so we're going into the studio tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
We're flying out tomorrow. Um, Greg and I spent 4 days prior because Marco said, you know what, it'd be great if we could get one new track to go in with because we have a bunch in the
Yeah.
tilt ready to go. But he said it would be great if you think you could get another track, and I was like, I don't know, 4 days,
Wow.
bro.
Yeah.
We blasted this out in 4 days.
Wow.
Joe really did all his parts last night, like in one day. So it's just the way that this band has
Does
been
it?
able to produce so naturally that is just astounding to me as a musician who's been in a whole bunch of bands. And I've done the garage thing
Sure.
where you're
Sure.
rehearsing and it's like, okay, we got one song, or 6 months you're after you're playing, you got
Yeah.
six
Yeah.
songs. Like this
Yeah.
band just naturally does what it does, and it's just clicks all
And I
together.
think the fact that you guys haven't released an official album just yet, and you're kind of in the process of doing that, you're actually kind of finding your sound. You're creating the Swim the Current sound, and there's not that set box, yet where a lot of bands get stuck with, oh no, can't have a power ballad. That's not what we do. We don't want to
Right.
go outside the box. There at this point, there's no rules of what you can do or no limitations.
Yeah, we just wanted to create stuff that we liked, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the rest would take care of itself,
Oh,
you know.
sure. And do you like not having that pressure where, like you can, you're not being pressured. Hey, we need you guys. We're paying for the studio time. We need you guys to go and crank out five songs in one day. you can kind of just go and kind of mold these songs until you feel you're at that point.
Well, you know what? I feel like I do perform well under pressure, you know what
Oh,
I mean? But
yeah,
with this project, there was no pressure, right? There was
yeah,
no record label.
sure, sure.
We weren't really necessarily looking for a singer. You know, Marcos really wasn't necessarily looking for a band. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So it was just, let's create some really cool stuff. And it just, you know, there's a lot to be said for no
yeah,
pressure, right? But
yeah,
at
yeah.
the same time, we want to crank out enough material to be able to do a record and tour now, because now we do have a label and
That
now
was the
we
next
do
question.
have
That is the
a,
next
yeah.
question. Like, touring. Have you guys played out live at all, or like you said, you're gonna get a few more tunes first?
So we've never even played in the same room together. So
Me, wow, wow, yeah,
we've never actually strummed chords next to one another.
yeah,
Well, that's a lie because we did shoot a video,
yeah, yeah,
but we never actually turned our amps on and
yeah,
played as a band. No, we
yeah.
have not.
And here's a crazy question. Being like an internet type of band, at least at this point, that hasn't, like you said, except for the video, you haven't really played out live or anything. Do you think that makes, if you guys were like in a band where you live down the street and you're seeing each other a day and you're going to rehearsal, um, maybe there wouldn't be that camaraderie, maybe there'd be a little more friction like some bands have, because, or do you think the fact that when you guys do get together because you don't see each other every day, it makes it that much more fun? Like probably when you went to do the video, probably haven't seen the guys in a while. It's like, oh, hey, how you guys doing? Great to see you, you know?
I think that it actually makes it a little more fresh,
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
don't
yeah,
have to breathe down each other's neck.
yeah,
But at the same time, you know, there's something to be said for that too.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? It's just unfortunate circumstances that we live far away from one another, but the chemistry's there, the musicianship's there. So I don't, and the friendship is there because we've hung, we
yeah.
talk, we'll Zoom call, we text. We're in a text thread. There'll be like, you'll wake up, you're like, oh my God, there's 72 text messages. So we're constant contact with one
Yeah.
another. So there's not really that space where
Yeah.
we're apart from one another. So I believe that we have built that
Yeah.
camaraderie, whether
Yeah.
it be virtual or text message or whatever. We have built that with one another,
Yeah.
for sure.
And how do you like doing like interviews like this? I asked because what I dig too is I went online, researched the band a little. I seen that a lot of times you'll have one guy in the band, typically the lead singer, the guitar player go out and he's a spokesperson for everybody. But I dig the fact that everybody in this band seems to get a chance to do that if they want to.
You know what? So I guess for the most part, I am the guy who writes most of the material,
Mhm.
and I do produce everything for the most part. We have other producers that do stuff as well. So it has always been me to kind of be the catalyst for it.
Okay.
But at the same point, I will turn interviews down and make them do them. And
Yeah.
I'll turn, press down and make them do it, because I feel like this is a band and everybody should have their say
Yeah.
and do
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? And you know what? They're all seasoned guys and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
Joe's a scientist,
Sure. Sure.
and Chris, so it's like there's no dummies here. You know
No,
what
no,
I mean?
everybody's got something to talk about. But see, I dig that because even I'll tell you from my perspective, I got into interviewing musicians and bands just because I'm a fan of the music and I want to try to do what I can to support it and get the word out. And some of the greatest interviews I've done are ones where it's more than one member of a band, or they'll send a different guy and typically does the interview because maybe somebody wasn't available that day, and he just has a different perspective. But like you said, I believe everybody's got a story to tell. I'll,
Absolutely.
I'll interview anybody. So I'll never turn an interview down. I mean, I even interviewed this guy from a rap metal act. Like I said, typically I'm into hard rock and metal, but you know what? I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you. Why not? You got a story to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool. Like a lot of the times we'll do a bunch of these interviews, like all of us, or five
Yeah.
or four of us, whoever's available. There might be four or three or two or whatever, and we like to cause chaos and
Yeah.
goof around, and
Yeah.
it's pretty fun.
I really enjoy doing these Zoom interviews. I tell you, for the longest time, like you're sharing me offline. Yes, some came up today, and we had to kind of do the interview a little later, and that's all right. But because things do come up, I had during the COVID lockdowns, we had to do like these Zoom meetings and stuff at work, and I can tell you all the horror stories I had learning how to do
Yeah.
it, and so for the longest time I kind of put it off. But I had a friend who played in a band. He told me, let's I'm going to teach you how to do these Zoom interviews, and I think once you get the hang of it, you'll have fun doing it. And he was so right, because what I've learned in doing these Zoom interviews, each one kind of has a personality of its own, depending on if it's one guy or two guys or whatever the case may be. The very
Sure.
first time I tried to do one, I kid you not, I was able to do it, but it was only an audio type of thing, because I couldn't do the video, because the minute I want to do the interview, the computer wants to update and all this. So you have all these crazy things that come up because of the technology. But it's amazing to think that, like, I'm in California and you're in New Jersey, and we can be doing this.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, technology, right?
Yeah. You got to embrace it. Works and
Yeah.
all. Now let me ask you, get a little more information on you, George, before we wrap this up for today. What was the point? I guess around what age you knew you wanted to be a musician, and why was the bass your instrument of choice?
I mean, that's a good question because there is a good story that goes along with that. So my father was a guitar player,
Oh wow.
and I have an older brother who gravitated towards the guitar.
Yeah.
And so I was a music fan like from the door because I
Sure.
grew up, my brothers were always playing guitar. I wanted to be in a band with my older brother. So he didn't need another guitar
Yeah.
player.
Okay.
So I chose bass,
Wow.
so I could be in a band with my older brother.
Wow. That is cool. So, um, what was that like, being in a band with your brother? I mean, like you said, growing up, he was probably your biggest influence, I'd imagine.
Yeah, he was definitely my biggest influence and hero growing up, you know what I mean? I really looked up to his playing. He's an amazing musician. So I definitely wanted to play with him because of various reasons. One, because he was really good and he
Hmm.
was much better than me,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So I always wanted to try to keep up with him.
Yeah.
He's older than me. So
And,
obviously, that progresses in my skill, with him.
and, and,
Um,
in
but
addition to being the bass guitarist, I think it's cool that you also chose to get so involved with, like, in the songwriting in your bands, because let's be honest, that's where the money is. But I find the guys that write the songs are usually the most creative.
yeah, I mean, the reason why I started songwriting, to be honest with you, is and it really just happened because, um, you know, I felt like I wanted to get things done, in my, recording studio because let's face it, I never really had recording equipment until maybe 10 years ago,
Oh
right?
wow.
Or
Okay.
or maybe even less. I want to say 6 years ago.
Okay.
So I decided to do it because out of necessity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got tired of waiting for people to produce. I got tired of waiting on people who were canceling practices
Yeah.
or not, able to make it or
Yeah.
whatever, you know, paying for studio costs and stuff like that. So I decided I was going to expedite the process. I got a laptop and I downloaded Audacity, which was a free Microsoft Windows recording software that you could basically, I was like, I just want to use this for a writing tool,
Yeah. Just to see. Yeah.
and then I got Fruity Loops, which is was a cracked version, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I slowly progressed as we all do, and I
Sure.
wanted more and more and more, and I wanted to make my own sounds. I had no intention on being a recording engineer or a producer because I produce other bands as well.
Sure.
So I had no intention on that whatsoever, right?
Just
I
fell
just
into
kind
it.
of fell into it, and my very first record that I did was with Corey Glover, and it
Wow.
was so uh that was a challenge to me. And again, that was all out of necessity.
Yeah.
And then I started writing more and writing more and just doing it because that
Well,
that right there
you're a real
fulfilled.
go-getter, it seems, George. And
Yeah,
amazingly, like a lot of people don't realize, a lot of times in a band, uh, bass player oftentimes is a secret weapon. You look at guys like Billy Sheehan. I mean, he doesn't really play like your typical bass player. He
yeah,
plays a little more like a guitar player. But also, you look at guys like Geezer Butler, Steve Harris. A lot of people didn't realize that in those Ozzy era Black Sabbath album, Geezer was the one writing the lyrics, not Ozzy.
yeah. I mean, it happens a lot, and bass players don't really get much respect.
Yeah, yeah,
You could prove it by asking most of your friends, like, "Hey, what's your favorite band?" And
yeah, yeah,
then they'll answer and say, "What's the bass player's name?"
yeah.
And they don't know.
And then you got a
You know
guy
what I
like
mean?
yeah, you got a guy like Geddy Lee that actually can not only play the bass but play keyboards and sing.
But he's the singer, so
Yeah,
that's something different, right?
yeah,
If
yeah, yeah.
you're the singer of the band and the bass player, then most people don't know who that person is
And
if
then
it's their favorite band.
interesting enough, with a guy with a band like Rush, he can do all that, but it was actually the drummer, Neil Peart, was writing the lyrics. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, I even write some lyrics with Marcos too. I mean, I want to say that he's mostly the guy.
yeah,
90% of the lyrics is, but I might contribute to some of the
yeah.
vocals and the lyrics to that, but not a whole hell of a lot.
Well, I really enjoyed getting to know you today, George. For I guess final question for the day then is, who were some of your bass heroes? The guys that made you want, besides your brother, obviously, want to pick up the bass and do what you do.
I mean, I gravitated mostly towards funk and jazz players.
That's cool.
So, I have a big mural on my wall of Stanley Clark.
Oh, okay.
And
Wow. Yeah.
I like Victor Wooten and Stanley Clark and guys like that. I listened to a lot of jazz when I was kind of,
Now that you
learning how
say
to play
that,
bass.
I dig that. That's obviously what you bring into the swim the current, and I dig that because it's not the obvious. I mean, it's obvious for you, but it's not what people typically would expect to hear. And I think that's cool because you can kind of hear that swing and that jazz kind of
Yeah,
influence in the music, and that's cool that you bring it to that.
definitely. I mean, I've played metal and stuff like that too, but not to get off the
Yeah,
subject of my bass heroes. There's a lot of guys that are my bass heroes that are just my friends too.
yeah,
And so those are the people who you kind of learn from
yeah,
is
yeah.
your peers, right? And one of my best friends is actually JD from Black Label Society, and the guy is just a phenomenal bass player. He doesn't get the credit because he plays with Zach Wild. I'm not saying he doesn't get the credit.
No, no,
If
no.
you
I
watch him
hear what you're
play,
saying. I
or you
mean,
would see a live show, you'll see
yeah, yeah.
how amazing he is. But it's Zach Wild's band, so
Oh, sure, sure.
they're
I mean,
they're, they're not.
a great example of what we're talking about is the current bass player in Megadeth, James Lomenzo. He used to be in White Lion, and I remember a few years back hearing that he was playing with John Fogerty of all people, and people were telling him, "Hey, you're a metal guy. What are you playing with John Fogerty?" He's like, "You know what? Hey, it's a classic songs that I grew up on, and it's a good paying gig. Why not, right?"
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
people got to, I think, open their mind a little, to that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, George, like I said, it's great getting to know you. The interview we just did, I'm going to try to post it later this week. I'll let Shauna know once it goes up. Feel free to share it. And as far as your other band, if you ever want to come back, talk to me about that, just let me know. We'll do it. Okay.
Definitely. Jay, thanks for having me on, and thanks for supporting, musicians and trying to get our word out there and our songs out there for us
Yeah, it's all about
without
spreading
people.
the love for this great music and bands like Swim the Current. So you take care. I know it's late where you are, and have a great rest of your day. Okay.
You too, Jay. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Bye bye.
Have a good one. Bye.